WWF Smackdown Just Bring It would be the first WWF/WWE game that arrived for the PlayStation 2. Released on November 19, 2001 in the United States, this game would end up featuring a lot of firsts for a wrestling game of its kind, such as ringside commentary, awful or not, full entrances, and more. However, this roster was also incredibly outdated by the time the game had been released, considering the monumental events of the Invasion angle and the ultimate purchase of WCW earlier in the year. The game did not feature any of the big names that became prominent players in the WWE, as the Invasion angle ran too late to get any of the massive influx of talent coming into the company. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of those WCW stars that did not make the deadline for the game, as well as some in-house names that for one reason or another were not part of the plans for this SmackDown installment. There were many more limitations technologically at this point, and there weren't many wrestlers excluded from the game without good reason. But that's not going to stop us from saying, what if, and conceptualizing additions to make for a perfect, though completely unreasonable, in-game roster. Let's get started.
WWF Smackdown! Just bring it!
Number 1. X-Pac. X-Pac is probably the biggest head-scratcher of an omission in this game as a whole. X-Pac had a very busy year in 2000, varying from DX shenanigans to a more serious role as a singles competitor, feuding with the likes of the Dudley Boys, Road Dogg Jesse James, Chris Jericho, and more. However, a neck injury he suffered late in the year would keep him sidelined for months. Upon his return in 2001, X-Pac would find himself as the leader of the X-Factor faction, featuring Justin Credible and Albert, and would go on to win multiple singles championships during the year. Despite the push from creative, X-Pac is nowhere to be found in the game. To the exception of Albert's X-Factor Titantron, it's unclear if it was his neck injury or the poor reception from fans generating quote X-Pac heat that would end up keeping this man out of the game, but regardless, this remains a head-scratcher. Big Boss Man. The Big Boss Man was one of the most menacing heels in the later stages of the Monday Night Wars. His dastardly actions and iconic bouts will forever ingrain him into WWE's history. Big Boss Man's tenure with the company would last until 2003, but he was not included in the game released in 2001. The reason for that being was an injury he suffered in April of that year, which would keep him out of action and off of TV until December of the same year. While he was not present in the months leading up to the game's finalization, he was an integral part of the roster and the time frame this collection of characters actually represented, and in my opinion, would have been a justified inclusion even given his inactivity. What do you think? Is there anyone you remember who should have been in the game when you played it? Let me know in the comments below, and please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks. Kaientai. What was once a faction, eventually reduced to a tag team featuring Sho Funaki and Taka Michinoku, this team was active in the WWF for a 3-year stretch from 1998 to late 2001. While the two didn't come across much success in the win column during this tenure, this duo is fondly remembered by fans for their comedic contributions as well as the ability to put on interesting matches and deliver exciting moves within the squared circle. Despite the fond memories, this team did not make the cut for the game. While Taka Michinoku would be released in October 2001 before the game was released, it's not likely there were any plans to include the duo to begin with. There are a number of legendary tag teams featured in this game like the Hardys, the Acolytes, Edge and Christian, and more, but the addition of these two would have brought a fun element to the tag team division here, and I stand on that.
Indeed.
Al Snow. Al Snow had been putting in some seriously quality work around 2000 to 2001, with memorable acts and moments brought to fans like the iconic team of Head Cheese, as well as his creative entrances during his tenure as European Champion. Snow would also make an attempt to replace Mick Foley as on-screen commissioner in 2001, but would fall short to William Regal in that endeavor. From then on, we didn't see Al Snow in the ring for some time because of his role on the Tough Enough television show. Al Snow would return in October with the Invasion storyline well underway, challenging for the European Championship at Survivor Series, reinforcing his relevance to the company despite coming up short. It's only natural to assume his absence from WWE Weekly Television was the reason for his exclusion from the game, but Snow should have been included in the game regardless of his television role, given the value he offered the company at this time. The Godfather. The Godfather was one of the most popular mid-card acts of the Attitude Era. A former Intercontinental Champion and a character that in no way would fly today will forever be immortalized in WWE history. However, by late 2000 and early 2001, the Godfather had actually transitioned to the Good Father, a member of the Right to Censor faction. This version of the character would end up excluded from Just Bring It, even despite Steven Richards' appearance. The Godfather would remain active with the WWE until his departure in 2002, although once the Invasion angle began in 2001, his television appearances became fewer and farther in between. Eventually he was off-screen entirely until he would return as the Godfather. Considering the television relevance of the WCW Stars wasn't enough to get them into the game, the Godfather's television irrelevance should not have kept him out of the game. For good measure, right-to-censor stablemates were also excluded as Val Venus was taken off of TV to undergo surgery, while Bull Buchanan, who tagged with the Godfather until they were off of TV, was sent to developmental. Regardless of which character would have made it, the Godfather and some hoes would have been a pleasant addition to this game. The WCW Superstars. Smackdown Just Bring It has become widely known for being one of the most outdated rosters released for a wrestling game of all time. And the reason for that being, of course, is the WCW invasion and purchasing of the company. So many superstars suddenly crammed the talent pool full. Incredible characters like Diamond Dallas Page, Rob Van Dam, and Booker T were absent from the game as they debuted in June of 2001. Although Diamond Dallas Page and the Hurricane would actually be featured in the game's ultimate trailer as created wrestlers as well as their movesets. Solid workers like Chris Kanyon, Mike Awesome, Shane Helms, Billy Kidman, and more didn't have the opportunity to make it into the game either. But if I can be serious for a minute, including more new members of the Alliance could have made this game a classic, even if the largest of names from WCW hadn't migrated over yet. Honorable mentions: D'Lo Brown and Scotty 2 Hotty. D'Lo Brown is another name who is still with the company throughout this pivotal time. D'Lo had carved out a firm spot on the roster for himself in the late 90s, though at the turn of the century Brown's stock would have reached its lowest points. Brown had been relegating to working Sunday Night Heat whether in tag team competition or in singles action, and in early 2001 would be sent to developmental territory OVW before separating from the company for a while. The inclusion of D'Lo is quite the reach in the lens of 2001, but going off of late 2000, even as a jobber, D'Lo had the body of work to sneak in there as an honorable mention. In addition, Scotty 2 Hotty is our final name here who was with the company during production, finalization, and release of the game, but not included as a playable wrestler. Scotty 2 Hotty is most popularly remembered for his work as a member of Too Cool, and Rikishi's heel turn in late 2000 would turn the three-man crew into a tag team between Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexay, at least until March of 2001, where the Master of the Worm was forced to take time off due to a bulged disc in his invertebrae. Upon his return a few months later, he was defending WWF's honor in the invasion, and would eventually find a new partner in the hip-hop hippo known as Albert, someone who was included into the game. Scotty 2 Hotty may not have been the most significant character, but that banger of an entrance theme belonged in this game. As stated before, this game has become famous for coming equipped with an outdated roster on release. However, outside of the WCW Stars, there were very few missed opportunities here, which led to our slightly different formatting from usual in this video. The 44-man roster on Smackdown Just Bring It included just about everyone who had a genuine case for being in the game, and even included Limp Bizkit, who was made into the game as a negotiation element to use his song and Undertaker's entrance theme at the time, Rollin', in the soundtrack. But that's gonna do it for me here. Click the playlist below for more roster omission videos. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and I'll catch you in the next video.